What's up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to be with you on another podcast episode. Thanks for liking and subscribing to the show. Appreciate it. Share it with a friend. We love that as well. And leave some comments. They always love that. So anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. I'm excited about today's episode. I bring an awesome guest on, Dr. Dennis Truax. He was the past ASCE President. He retired from working at Mississippi State University and has done his just all kinds of credentials, probably longer than our podcast episode, so I won't read them all. But he has a wealth of experience through leadership, being the ASCE President, and we touch upon all of this in his various roles, why he jumped into civil engineering in the first place, with some of the challenges that we're facing as civil engineers now in terms of project costs and what engineers' pay is and tied to value there, and all kinds of other topics related to civil engineering. So in general, it's a great time to be a civil engineer, and Dennis Truax defines all of this as we talk about this in our episode. So it's a fascinating episode. I'm excited to share it with you. I will go ahead and shut up and let me get to this interview with Dr. Dennis Truax, and it's going to be coming up in just a minute. See you there. All right, Dennis, we're rocking and rolling. Thanks for joining me today on this Civil Engineering Academy podcast. Appreciate you doing this with me.
Oh, thanks for the invitation. I look forward to the conversation, Isaac. The work you guys are doing in this platform, as well as the CE Academy, is really good, and I applaud you for taking on the work.
Yeah, I feel like when I passed the P, I was like, how do we help pass it on to the next generation, the next engineer? And this was kind of my thought of doing that. So it's kind of taken on its own form, but appreciate you saying that.
No, it's important work, and especially given the last time when I took my FE exam, it was 8 questions in the morning, 8 questions in the afternoon, picked from a book.
Nice. Well,
so totally different from what you have to do today.
Well, again, thank you for doing this. I always love starting these out, just kind of for you to describe your own background. How did you find yourself into civil engineering? You've had quite an extensive career. Maybe give a little bit of flavor to those listening as to career highlights, and so we can get a better picture of you.
Well, if you go to YouTube and search for Truax ASCE induction, you'll find a 5-minute video ASCE put together that'll answer a lot of those details. But the long story is, the short story is, long story we won't get through. The short story is basically, I came from a small rural area. I found an aptitude and a love for design, creating things. And as I've told several people in the past, and if I could create something really big using other people's money, that's excellent. So the idea became that I wanted to go into architectural engineering. That didn't work out because the university closed the program. I went to structural engineering, found that I didn't really have an aptitude or interest for doing structural engineering. It was as it was practiced at that time. And I was working as a co-op student at a consulting on a wastewater treatment plant, and was just beginning to take my hydraulics and fluid mechanics and environmental classes, and it all clicked. It just, I could see it, I could feel it, I could, smell it too. But the idea was that it just made sense to me. And it was at a time when the basic equations for designing biological reactors hadn't even been settled. There were 3 different equations out there, and it just to me sounded like I could create anything I wanted to, as long as I was good at my field. And that motivated me to do better in school. And ultimately I went on to get my graduate degree with the expectation of going into consulting. But that didn't pan out exactly the way I wanted, because the next thing I know, I'm being pulled over into research and teaching and getting a PhD and going an academic route. Fortunately for me, the University, Mississippi State University, where I went on the faculty a long time ago. I won't date myself any more than my parents does. They wanted you that first 10, 12 years to do consulting, to bring that real life world stuff into the classroom. So we were supported in going out and doing consulting as opposed to research. And then when the research emphasis came along, as it invariably did for all major universities, I was able to blend those together. So I did research, I did consulting. I've had my own consulting firms, but the passion has always been to design things that changed lives, that made the planet better. And so that's where I am.
Rundown. Well, you've had leadership positions. You've been involved in quite a few different projects yourself.
Yeah.
Um, what was the most recent stint before you retired?
Hmm. Well,
Because you're not really retired.
well, well, there's retirement and then there's retirement, as we kind of discussed earlier in prepping for the conversation today. I was American Society of Civil Engineers president, and that came online just as I was retiring. Prior to retiring, I was the director of the Mississippi Research and Development Center for Transportation.
Mm.
Before that, again, I was a vice president of a major manufacturing firm and an engineering firm. So leadership, yeah, I've had as well as the last 15 years that I was at Mississippi State. I moved into the department head's chair, uh, did a number of projects that I had gotten approval from the dean to do, build a building, increase the endowment, work on enrollment, increase faculty. Um, and so by the time I left, the department had grown to the point where it now became a school. And so the title officially changed to director. And so
Moved on up.
I guess you call that success.
That's good. So I'm curious from your perspective, it seems like civil engineering is changing very rapidly. But
Yes.
how do you see schools keeping up with those changes, or what do you see that schools can do to keep up with those changes?
Well, arguably, the American Society of Civil Engineers just finished a report, task force just finished a report that said the education program isn't keeping up.
Mm.
So some of the things they are talking about doing is a lot more hands-on education, a lot more adaptive education, a lot more systems education, not just teaching people to be a structural engineer or an environmental engineer or transportation engineer, exposing them to all of that, but also teaching them how to deal with the different disciplines, mechanical, industrial, chemical, electrical, all of whom we work with on civil infrastructure, and focus on the civil infrastructure piece, which then allows us to transition over. Now, the problem with the education system is that it's a bit siloed, it's a bit historic, and that transition is going to be a bit difficult, particularly with the reward system for faculty and the emphasis on research, which is just the opposite direction. Now, research, you get into studying the minutia of an idea, and what we're talking about is making sure that the people that come out are competent to practice in whatever area they feel, just like me. If I'd been a civil structural engineer, I probably wouldn't have practiced.
Right.
Probably would have gone on to something else. I don't know what that would have been, but probably would have. But
So
I could find something within civil that fit me, and anybody can. Civil's a very diverse area. It's also a very hard area. In fact, I've often said civil engineering degrees are some of the hardest degrees to get because of the complexity and depth. Chemistry, math, biology, physics, all part of just your foundation. And then you get in past the mathematics and being able to apply that to fluid mechanics, where a change in 10 feet is considered an acceptable change, or structures where a change in a tenth of an inch is considered structural failure.
oh, yeah.
It just, I mean, just envision that all of that diversity, and it is fun because of what you end up getting to do. At the end of the day, you change lives.
Yeah.
It Yeah,
I think it's a wonderful industry to be in. You affect everything that humans do. So,
yeah.
the water you
As
drink.
well as the economic development of your area. I mean,
Yeah.
when we talk about municipal works, give me a break. The public road is a commercial road. It's an
Yep.
industrial road. Okay, maybe municipality paid for it, but at the end of the day, industry depends on it, expects it. Commerce expects it.
All right.
In the same way with the water and storm and sanitation and the list goes on. Civil infrastructure and in whole is the foundation for economic development as well as quality of life.
Yeah. I was just, in our previous conversation, a lot of what I'm seeing from younger engineers, and maybe this is uh, a bad thing, but sometimes they have hesitation to coming into the civil engineering industry because they think that it doesn't pay extremely well. Maybe the tech sector or something just looks more sexy.
Yeah.
It's not as advertised as well. So
Yeah.
I guess what would you say to a younger engineer that may be considering going into civil engineering but doesn't really see light at the end of the tunnel in terms of making it?
Well, this goes back again to my department head or director days when prospective students would walk in and say, okay, tell me about your civil engineering program. And I'd look at them and go, no, what my program is irrelevant. What I want to know is, what do you want to do with your life? At the end of the day, figuratively speaking, when they close the lid on the box and whether they stick you 6 feet down or shove you in fires, not relevant, but you get the idea. When the sum total of your entire existence on this planet comes to an end, what would you like people to say about you? You made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
You were on a production line and nobody ever knew who your name was. You never did anything that impacted anybody that they recognized. Then, if it's about that, civil's probably not what it is, because in the civil world, you're going to face people. They're going to see what you do. You're going to build a bridge that changes their travel time from 2 hours to 10 minutes. You're going to build a water supply and distribution system that protects their health and makes sure that they don't end up dying from a disease, or for that matter, that they have water on a 24/7 basis. They get up in the morning at any time of the morning and turn on the tap and they've got water. That's what civil engineers, you turn on the power. You flip the switch in the house and the lights come on. What happened? A civil engineer did their job.
That's right.
I mean, it's just that kind of stuff. And so what I tell them is, if you want to get excited about having impact, being a change agent, you want to address climate change through infrastructure design, if you want to impact resource management, if you want to protect species, if you want to have an impact in your community that makes lives better, I don't think you have a choice. It's going to have to be civil engineers. As I've often said, you can have the best automobile in the world, but if you don't have a decent road to drive it on, you've got lawn art. So, and nothing against the mechanical engineers. I know they love to talk about civil engineers build targets and they come and blow them up. But I mean, which is partially true. But then if we build the target right, they don't get to blow them up. We get to sit back and laugh at them, which we do probably 9 out of 10 times. So much for you, mechanical engineer.
Yeah, that's a common one there. All engineers are good, but yeah, we do love those.
We're just. I heard a comment. It was an old TV game show, and the person said, it may be civil engineering, but all engineers are civil. And I said, no, they're not. Civil engineers are civil engineers. The rest of them are just, whatever.
Well, Dennis, you specialized water resources,
and environmental. Yeah.
And environmental. What are you seeing out there in the world that are the biggest challenges that face that kind of category?
Oh, let me flip the script and call it opportunities.
Oh.
When I got into this market, in this profession, the emphasis was on centralized water supply, centralized wastewater treatment. So we were building large treatment plants connected by mega pipe systems and pump stations and all that involves. And that grid, that network of hard infrastructure that we were designing and building was designed in an effort to protect the public. We don't have to do that anymore. We now have the technology, when applied correctly. And I'll give you a specific example. There's a structure in Singapore that actually generates all of its own water. It's not tied to a water main. It generates its own water. It treats its own wastewater. It manages its own storm water. It generates its own electricity. It creates its own sustainable environment.
Wow.
The structure is called an urban sequoia, and we can be part of that. So we can now decentralize through the application of membrane systems and advanced treatment systems, and through proper resource management, and the everything from the energy grid, which we can uncouple from, or we may go to, say, a modular nuclear reactor where my city block's run by a small plant on its own, and my power grid's adaptable, my water supply is adaptable. If my building generates more water than yours, we can share.
Hmm.
But the idea of these large centralized systems, I think, is to me is the real opportunity, and that's just one piece. The other thing that we need to recognize, the thing that's really impacting the both the environmental and the water resource areas right now is, and I know for some people that are going to be listening, they're wow, climate change doesn't exist, or maybe it's their grandparents that are saying that. But anyway, the idea here is that climate change is real. Look at what happened in Texas. Look what happened in Western Maryland. Look what happened in Missouri. Look what's happening in California. Climate change is real, people, and who's fixing it? Civil engineers. Who's going to build the system?
Resilience.
Who's going to? It's only when the politicians get into the system that all of a sudden it's like, let's, at least today, this didn't even used to be the case just 15 years ago, but today the politicians come in and go, oh, I don't care what the facts are. I know the truth. You can thank a former president that used to stood on the Hill in 9/11 and made that comment. I don't need to know the facts. I know what the truth is.
Interesting.
And no, folks, you have to know what the facts are.
Yeah.
Facts are truth. And that's what we as engineers have to do. We have to get proactive. We have to get in there and I think this is our real opportunity, preventing the loss of life and the damage to infrastructure and the general welfare of people and communities by building systems, infrastructure that protects and serves.
So during your time as the ASCE president, I imagine you interacted a lot with, politicians and others, but I guess as the president,
and every one of them was a fine person.
that's great. What were some
They were.
what are some of the most meaningful things that you feel like, or moments or projects or initiatives that happened during your presidency?
Well, from an ASCE standpoint, of course, we have the organization puts together every 4 years the infrastructure report card.
Mm-hmm.
The 2025 edition just rolled out. This is a document that has been read into congressional record. It has been quoted on the floor of the Congress. In the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed, arguably coming up on 4 years ago, 43 specific recommendations that came out of the report card were literally written into law. And so we have at ASCE a long relationship, a solid relationship with a lot of people on Capitol Hill. And we have state report cards, and our members at the state level also have strong relationships with the legislators and the executive branch at many states with the idea of trying to communicate, supporting them in what they're trying to do and build a better environment. And at the end of the day, regardless what you think of politicians in general, and I've got my list just like you do, I have found that on both sides of the aisle, these people really do want to make a positive difference in the lives of their constituency, and how they go about doing that. What they consider positive is the point of debate. So,
And if I remember that report, actually the overall grade, I believe, was improved because of some of the investments.
It was in the 25 years. ASCE first did the report card in 1999, and we've done it on basically every 4 years since. Don't do the math because there was a year in there where things didn't quite work out. But anyway, yes, this is the first year. It was a C- overall.
Yeah.
We had a couple Ds. Wastewater was one of them. But we also had some Bs, no A's. So it's a report card that is better than it has ever been before. And it's a combination of reasons. Certainly the infrastructure bills, IIJA, CHIPS and Science Act, IRA, all of which got passed in the last administration, made a significant infusion to try and move things forward. But partnerships, public partner partnerships. There we go. Trip P3. I'm sitting there.
A lot of feet.
Did I get all the P's there? Did I pee enough? I don't know. Anyway, that's substantial. There are states, and I point to Texas. Their infrastructure system in Texas is really good, not A-rated, but certainly really good, and it's because of the investment in infrastructure that individuals and corporations have been making, and using them on others. And there's pluses and minuses to P3, but at the end of the day, it's about making the investment and then covering the cost of that investment through whatever mechanisms. And that's what we do. Again, we as civil engineers need to speak out and let people know that we can build systems better than they used to. This is the other thing we argue about. Well, why should I have to repave an asphalt road after 7 years? Technology would allow me to do it every 15. So why am I doing it every 7? Well, corporations may have something to do with that, or it's lack of knowledge on the part of the people writing the spec. Maybe concrete that lasts 100 years instead of 50 years is something that we should be looking at. Oh, wait a minute. We already have that. Concrete that doesn't have a really large carbon footprint. Maybe that's something we should be thinking about. Done.
Yeah.
But it's getting it used. It's going to take the civil engineer to explain to the owner, the municipality, the company, how through life cycle cost analysis, through basic economics, how investing an extra 10 or 12% today will save you an additional 50% tomorrow.
I like it.
And I have had that argument at my local level. Literally, the street in front of my house is something I've been working with the supervisors on for 6 years, trying to convince them to build it the right way, that it will save them money in the long run if it costs them just a little bit more in the short run. And they finally got the message. At least they say they got the message. They'll see when they put the road in. Right now, that crap outside.
So wastewater is your specialty. Why did that one get a D+? Just the aging infrastructure, or what's going on with wastewater?
Well, there's so many things going on with the wastewater industry right now. We recognize in many ways what we discharge from our wastewater treatment plant becomes the water supply for the next person down the road, down the stream, to be more exact. So we're concerned about emerging chemicals.
Right.
PFAS is the one we're worried about today. We've been talking about PFAS for 20 years, but it's moved up. Disinfection byproducts was the issue that we had before, but it's also a matter of the carbon footprint of the old design of the old treatment systems and how to raise that. Nutrients are a problem. The nutrient imbalance in our streams can cause, I should say, problems in terms of algae blooms, fish kills. All of this has to be managed in an economical way. But the real problem with wastewater is that we have a number of treatment plants that are pushing through to their design capacity. Engineers typically start designing expansions at the 80% mark. We're there, or because of new regulations already in place, or the limitations. And the other thing that's pushing on wastewater, and maybe it's a little progressive, but the idea that maybe we should start looking at wastewater as a resource. Maybe this idea of treating it to a level and dumping it in a stream and pretending that once we got it to a stream, we don't have to think about it. Maybe what we want to do is turn around and look at that water supply as a water supply, taking that wastewater and treating it at potable levels and recirculating it back into the community water supply. I had a graduate student 25 years ago, right on the year, right on the month almost, do a study for a local wastewater treatment plant. And he found that he could take it was a well-operated secondary treatment plant. No advanced wastewater treatment, no nitrogen removal, no phosphorus removal, but the plant was really, really well run. And he came up with a design that would produce water better than the drinking water that's currently being consumed in the community at a cost less than what the current cost was.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
one of
where
the
we should be
well,
headed.
why did we do it? I said, well, why don't people want their wastewater to go back into their tap? That kind of
Perception.
phraseology. It's
Perception.
it's perception. I frankly, education is the way I perceive,
Yeah.
but the idea is we have to step up and educate people. Look, that it's what I used to do with third graders years ago. I'd hold up two bottles. My daughter recounted this to me just this year, just this Christmas. I'd hold up two bottles, look at the class, and say, "Which of these would you like to drink?" Now, the one bottle was brown and a little cloudy, and looked like somebody had spilled Coke and water and put it together. And the other was crystal clear, perfectly fine looking. And of course, the kids, third graders, would all point to the bottle with something clear. And at which time I would take off the top, pass it around. And the brown bottle, they said, smells like coffee. And I said, yeah, that's my coffee from this morning. I said, I drink it a little weak. Sorry about that. They said, now try this one. They go, whoa, what's that? And I said, it's acetone. And that's not original, by the way. You remember the old SNL where there was the comment about drinking the water and somebody was, it's sulfuric acid. I just didn't want to expose the kids to sulfuric acid. I figured it's the acetone move. Hit the ground, it would evaporate. But the idea is the visualizations. We've got to communicate people that it's not only in the aesthetics.
Right.
You got to trust the science. You got to trust the engineers. And if you trust the science, if you trust the engineers, if you believe in facts, then we can make this transition and really have a much more sustainable. We got communities in Texas that have run out of, not are going to, have run out of water. Period. Exclamation mark. What are they going to do? Continue to ship it in from 16 miles away? Or right now they don't have any choice. You live on an island in Louisiana. Recirculation is something that they've already started using. We as civil engineers can do this. We have the knowledge, we have the skills, and the technology is waiting for it to apply. This is exciting.
That is
this is almost exciting time for this profession as it was when I came in. There was one difference. When I came into this profession in
some time ago.
Yeah, that works. The dinosaurs were no longer roaming the planet. I'll let you figure that out. Okay, from that point, I used to joke that when I got into this profession, they had just discovered dirt, and 2 years later, they started calling it soil. But anyway, when I first got into this, the one difference was that the federal government was investing heavily in communities. They were spending literally millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to build facilities in municipalities, roads, water, wastewater, power grid, infrastructure. And in the early 80s, all of a sudden they decided we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Don't worry, be happy. And are you happy?
Yeah, stuff's wearing out. It's useful life. Now we're
full life.
And putting Band-Aids back on.
Yep, yeah, exactly. You got it right on track, Isaac.
Well, Dennis, this has been fascinating.
Duct tape works really well.
We love duct tape. Dennis, what are you working on today? What's going on in Dennis's world?
You want me to unwrap that one?
Yeah, just maybe the last question of my time with you. I'm wondering what's going on in Dennis's world today.
Well, after I retired from the university, I spent a couple of years working full-time for ASCE as a volunteer. President, past president, committee chair, liaison, representative, all fun. I mean, people in my state call me Mr. ASCE. I don't bleed ASCE blue, except on half of the veins in my body. Or I guess those are called arteries, aren't they? And see, now you got to know biology to understand that joke. This is crazy. Anyway, I've gotten involved with a group. I actually got involved a couple of years ago there's a really creative concept of trying to change the way engineers do things and make sure that they do them for the better. Sustainability, lower cost management. And so, first of the year, I became the chief information officer for a company called Bidcurement. Our focus is not bidding, but more procurement. But the idea is we're putting together a series of platforms that will allow vendors of services to be proven and vetted so that engineers know what they're buying as opposed to having to trust the representative of a manufacturer to tell them the truth. Yeah, been there, done that one too. And I always told the truth. Don't get me wrong. I always told the truth. The other jokers lied through their teeth. Anyway, so that's one piece of what we're doing. The really exciting piece of what we're doing right now is we're trying to shake up the marketplace for engineers. The conversation is that civil engineers don't make quite as much money out of the gate, and they don't. Those people graduating with other degrees do make more money coming out of the gate. Historically, civil engineers made up that gap within 4 or 5 years, and by the end of 10 years, civil engineers would typically be making more. When I say, and this is either through their consulting activity or their industrial activity or whatever else. Part of the reason civil engineers start out a little bit lower, if you look at national averages, group data, is a lot of us will end up working for government, and government pays less than industry or consulting. And so what we're looking at, and that makes the data a bit skewed, but what we're working on now is trying to give this next generation of civil engineers an opportunity, as well as the current generation, an opportunity to balance work and life. If I want to work for 40 hours a week for a month on a project, then let's see if we can help you do that. If you want to work 60 hours a week, let's see if we can help you do that. Let's make sure you also get properly compensated. And if you want to take 2 weeks off, 2 months off, whatever it is, you manage your career, you balance your life. The way we've often put it is in the old model, the model that came out of the early 1900s, the idea was that you worked 60, 70 hours a week on the promise you got a bonus. You worked at a salary, but you still counted hours because that's how you got billed off. Your billing rate was probably $70 an hour, and the company was charging the client $200 an hour, and you may have gotten a $10,000 bonus at the end of the year. That's just wrong. It's just busted. And the current generation of civil engineers, the young generation, Gen Z, Gen Y, learned and basically saw the lie, and they're not willing to put up with it. So we've got people that are walking away from the profession after 10, 12 years. We've got people that are not coming into the profession that we need. And what my company's trying to do is provide an alternative platform where you work as a consultant, you come in and work on the projects that you're competent to work in and that you want to work on. We vet the competency, you make the decision, the employer hires you, and at the end of the day, you get more money, you get more personal satisfaction, you get more control over your life. The company makes more money because they're not having to pay you 24/7, 365, and your retirement programs and all the rest of that. And you end up with kind of a more of a balance. And then, of course, the client municipality is able to get better service at the same cost. And so it's a win-win-win.
I think that's fascinating. That is a very hot topic on LinkedIn or any social media platform. This drive to the bottom and engineers filling.
Well, we're in that platform. If you want to find out more about it, go to Engineering Match. And that's our LinkedIn website that talks about it. And we've got right now right at just under 1,000 engineers who are part of our program. And we're just now beginning to vet those individuals. We have over 24 companies that are begging to get connected to this 1,000 engineers. And what we're doing is, instead of them having to interview all 1,000, we're going to hand them 10 or 12 that are perfect matches for what they want. And then then they'll make the decision about who they hire.
Smart. I love it. Yeah. I mean, there's so many companies, they have a problem finding the right engineer. And if you could find the right engineer for them, they're probably willing to pay for that. So,
Well, it's I know you're trying to get me out of here, and let me leave you say something I learned in my sociology class. Yeah, I took sociology because I was a civil engineer. As I told somebody someday, if I was going to be a mechanical engineer, I'd do psychology because I'd want to be able to manipulate the mind of the one person. I took sociology because I wanted to be able to manipulate the mind of the masses.
that's good.
But seriously, the point I want to make is one of the comments that was made is that most people find or interface with less than 12 prospects who are viable mates for life.
Wow.
We got a population of 333 billion. Why is it that I only see 12 possible? Not, and I looked up and I found my perfect one before I got to number 12. And I hope she hears that. But anyway, but anyway, the point is we're not connected. We're not networked. The system isolates us, silos us. And what we're trying to do at Bid Procurement and with our system, the Civil Infrastructure Network, and with my podcast, is trying to break some of that down and get people an opportunity to find more opportunity. And that's what we're working on, Isaac. Hey,
well,
again, thank you for what you're doing. It's really important to get people licensed, and the impact that you're having has got to be real. And I hope I just wish you all kinds of success.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's the first step, for a civil engineer to launch their career. They got to get the FE, they got to get the PE, and go join your site, get hired, get matched up with the right place.
Absolutely.
I think there's a huge need for that. So,
absolutely.
Dennis, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. We'll make sure to link everything that you mentioned in our show notes so people can find you. Any last words? Anything else on your mind?
No, just civil engineers, go forth and do good.
Love it.
And do it well.
Love it. Okay, Dennis, thank you so much. Hopefully we chat in the future.
Look forward to it, Isaac, and I hope to run into you soon too.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye for now.